let's talk about RB. Starting this off, this is the list that I took to a local, took it this past Thursday, and I had always kind of flirted with the idea of playing these cards. I think these cards are, I'm gonna get sample off my webcam. I think the bit has gone long enough. As everybody knows, Earth Machine is an archetype that I've played a long time, probably longer than I should have, and I got competitive success with it probably longer than I should have. It is still, like, you know, my true love in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh! I just like the style of deck that it is. I loved the train cards. I loved honestly, I figured out after playing it, the cards that I really liked out of the archetype were the Infinitrack cards. I just think those cards are so cool. I like how they look. I like how they feel to play. A lot of the time, sometimes I really don't like how they feel to play, and we'll talk about, you know, the ups and downs of that. I was a big fan of the idea of, like, what these could do when the RB cards got revealed. Earth Machine as a deck lacked engine slightness, and what I mean by that is anytime you're playing some sort of machine pile, there's a lot of chaff that has to go into the deck. There's many engine requirements. Citadel, Citadel, while it's still in this deck, like, that's still an engine requirement. Everybody knows Box, right? Like, Box is an awful engine requirement. Even the trains, the extenders that they are, can be very frustrating because there's not good stuff to do with them if you don't see a starter. That's why you don't see things like Bullet Train or Dare Crane in this list anymore, because those are the types of cards that feel very frustrating. If you don't open a starter, all they do is contribute to bricks. They're cards that are only good if you're already playing. Now, with RB, the reason I liked these cards so much is because you can summon them if you have nothing, right? They're just always usable. That's why the RB cards felt decent to me. Is like, okay, Machine already has a way to put a ton of bodies on the board, but there's nothing to do with them. Cards like Heavy Forward are very good because they get you not only a starter, but they also get you an extender. They also get you a card that recycles cards, right? Like, this card is just a very nice searcher. Its on-field effect can be good. You know, if you have a target for it, then, like, attaching an extra material is nothing to scoff at, right? That's pretty decent. The Infinitrack engine is just a good way to put bodies on the board. It's very flexible, but it does have some flaws. First and foremost, that Infinitrack Trencher and Tunneler, just like I was talking about with the train cards, they also have the problem where they don't really do anything unless your engine is already started, which is why I'm going to talk about, like, what RB should do moving forward, what that second wave of support really should look like. As much as I love these Infinitrack cards, I don't think that they should be the cards that should go in this deck. With a second wave, hopefully these are the types of cards that leave the deck. I'm hoping that the deck gets a normal summon, but we'll talk about what that is, you know, at some point. So anyway, what I played was 3 Driller, because Driller is a level 3. And the reason that's important for me specifically, since I was also playing Harvester, if I was to theoretically get drolled at some point, I could go Driller to special itself, normal Harvester, Harvester target Driller, because it doesn't have to target an Infinitrack, it can target any machine, make them both level 5s, overlay into Nova, overlay into Infinity. Like, I could just have something that I could make under Droll with specific 2-card combo hands. Like, if I activated Heavy Forward, search Harvester, and I got Drolled right there, I could go Special Driller, normal Harvester, do that, right? Like, that's just something that could potentially happen. I played 1 Cutter and 1 Valkan Rocket. So the reason I only played 1 of this is I tried to play not so many RB names, except the ones that weren't Driller, because on their own, this is another frustrating issue, the RBs still do not do anything. Like, if I open a hand of 4 cards, like non-engine plus Driller, Driller doesn't do anything. You know, you need additional RBs or some type of summonable machine in order to make the Link 2. Exactly. RB monsters by themselves aren't starters. All these RB cards, by the way, the way they work is that they have their own effects when they are linked to one of the RB Link monsters. Gaten Driller is kind of like a Trident, destroys itself, you know, targets an opponent's monster, destroys itself in that monster. Gaten Cutter is a spell trap negate that destroys itself and negates a spell trap. And Valkan Rocket is target 2, blow them up and itself, right? The thing is, they don't have to destroy themselves in order to resolve their effect. And Stage Landing has a protection effect in the graveyard. If you are activating your Gaten Driller and it resolves, you can blow up your opponent's monster and save your attachment, which is these. I'm going to call these attachments moving forward. You can save your attachment from their own effect with the Stage Landing that you've activated with it, which is super important because you are trying to keep your attachments under your Link 3 throughout the game. Let's talk about the Infinitrack cards. Why is this the supplementary engine, or a supplementary engine that I decided to include? The reason why is because Harvester or Heavy Forward are one-card combos to get to the Link 2, because the Link 2 requires just 2 machines. So what you would do is you would normal summon Harvester, activate the effect to get Trencher, link off the Harvester for either Goliath or Clockwork Knight, depending on what I needed. Activate Trencher in hand to special itself, link the Trencher off for Goliath or Clockwork Knight, then use Trencher's effect in hand, banishing itself, summoning back the Harvester, linking those two into the booster searching Funk Dock gets Stage Landing, proceed to play the game from there, okay? So Harvester and Heavy Forward are one-card combos. The other thing to note is that Heavy Forward is not only a one-card combo to get to Valkan Booster, it also gets you Clockwork Knight. And this card is really, really good. This is a very strong card to have on an end board. It is nice. I like this card a lot. So I talked a little bit about the engine requirement idea there. In order for Trencher and Tunneler to really do anything, you have to already have Harvester. It is nice. Like, these are nice cards to have throughout the game plan. And the reason why, even though it sucks that they're a part of the deck, because if you draw them when you don't have Harvester, they don't do much, this deck needs to recycle cards, okay? You go through these cards very fast. So having Tunneler as a way to, you know, draw 2 as a part of your combo and put some attachments back in deck if you need to, very, very important. These cards were great. Happy I played them. Plus, they have some synergy. If I have, like, Valkan Rocket, I can get to, like, a Trencher that can also help make Nova Infinity if I get hit with some sort of Charmy that I don't really want to play into more, or Droll is a big deal. But they did suck to draw when I didn't see Engine. And then, holy shit, Citadel. This card was good. Citadel was kind of my thrust target. Really, that's the only way I was accessing it, is if I had Overdrive, or if I got Thrust. I drew this card so much. I drew this card a lot. Barricade Borg Blocker should have been in my deck, because that consistently gets this engrave if I drew it. But the other card I should have been playing, instead of maxing out on Harvester, I should have been playing this card. 100% should have been on this guy. I should have been playing this instead of 3 Harvester. This should have been my main normal summon. 100% this should have been my main normal summon. It is without a doubt the truth that I absolutely should have been playing this card. Then we'll talk about why, because there's a lot that this card can do for this deck that this card can't do on its own. Stage Landing. When we talk about support that a deck needs moving forward, this deck is going to need a lot of heavy lifting. The reason I say that is because Stage Landing has one of the harshest restrictions that I have seen put on a modern Yu-Gi-Oh card in forever. It's probably a good thing that this card has this restriction, because it's also insane. It just summons an RB monster from deck or extra deck. But you can only summon machine monsters with 1,500 or less original attack the entire turn that you activate it. Not after, entire. Peeps from the future. I forgot to mention this card's not once per turn. So if you summon anything from your extra deck that is not a machine with 1,500 or less attack, you can't activate this card. So this is a super restrictive card. Really kind of frustrating that this card has that much of a restriction, but I do understand it. And then I'm only playing 1 Funk Dock, so people kind of raise their eyebrows at why there's only 1 Funk Dock, and let me explain. First and foremost, when this card is activated, add 1 RB card from your deck to your hand except RB Funk Dock. It's a good effect. It's a great consistency tool. It's nice to have, you know, it's nice to see multiple RB cards, so it makes sense that you would want to max out on this. However, this is a mandatory effect to add. If you get Droll and Lockbirded, you cannot activate it. So what'll happen is, if you get to your Valkan Rocket before you add Funk Dock, and you get Drolled, you just can't even activate it. There's one thing you're going to notice, like a theme of me talking about this deck, is that it is abysmal into Droll and Lockbird. It is so unfathomably awful into that card. I honestly can't believe that they designed this card this way, but whatever. A new set rotation target? Yeah, we'll talk about that too. Maybe like moving forward, we'll discuss that. But you know, one Funk Dock was the right ratio to play in my opinion, because it's never great to see more than one in your opening hand. Plus, when you're summoning Valkan Booster and using its effect to add an RB spell, you are always getting Funk Dock. You are always getting Funk Dock. Just to hammer that point home, this is your search target with this card, unless you already have it, in which case you get another stage landing, right? So I didn't see a purpose of playing more than one. I would have rather played other engine pieces that supplemented the game plan rather than maxing out on this, because it's always what I'm going to be searching anyway if I get to play regardless. So this ratio felt completely fine. I would not change it. Foolish Burial Goods was something I thought about, and this card was okay. The reason I played this was because I'm also playing Striker cards, as you can see. It just didn't come up much. A lot of the time, I would rather have Clockwork Knight as something on my board instead of something I'm sending, and Foolish Burial Goods is just a feast or famine card where if I see it in my opening hand, it's phenomenal. If I get to it later and send Overdrive, that's good too, but ultimately, this card wasn't great. I'm going to be taking Foolish Burial Goods out. It's cute because sending Clockwork Knight gets you to a starter and an extender, which is nice, but it just wasn't worth it. This card was not great. Sky Striker stuff. As you can see, I do play 3 Sky Striker links in my extra deck. That's because the stage landing lock, the Sky Striker cards all work with that. You know, you can go through all of the Striker links under this lock. Engage is also a 1-card Valkan booster because you can activate Engage, get Hornet Drones, activate Hornet Drones, get Kagari add back drones, link off Kagari into Kaina, activate Hornet Drones, link that into Hayate, and then make Valkan Booster. Also, Hayate, pretty decent going second. Like, you can just, like, if you have the Striker cards going second, you can just go push for Hayate. Hayate forces a lot of interaction. This card was, these were really nice. If Camellia was legal, would you cut RB Link or Clockwork Knight? I would probably cut the Cyber Dragon stuff, to be honest. In theory, these cards were good. They served a purpose, but I never summoned these at all. I was just always activating Stage Landing. I was always playing the game to a certain degree. So, I don't know. I probably wouldn't play these moving forward. I would, if Camellia was legal, yeah, sure. Have you tried Lemniscate? Okay, so Lemniscate, thanks for bringing Lemniscate up. Yes, I did try Lemniscate. The reason I'm not on Lemniscate is because Lemniscate requires you to see a Sky Striker card in order for it to be good. There were plenty of hands where I just didn't see a Sky Striker card and I saw Lemniscate, which was completely unusable. So I just play a small Sky Striker engine of 3 Engage, 1 Hornet Drones, and 1 Widow Anchor, and that was totally fine. I would keep this ratio the same. If I was to put in another Sky Striker card, it actually might have been Multi-Roll, because Multi-Roll is a continuous spell that I could send for Clockwork Knight to get Clockwork Knight. Right, and that's the other reason that Heavy Forward is so good, is because, you know, like I mentioned before, Harvester goes into Clockwork Knight, you send the Heavy Forward to get Clockwork Knight, and then you just have that as a part of your end board. It's very nice. Thrust and Talents, these cards were obviously great. I should have been playing 3 Thrust 100%. 3 Thrust should have been in my deck. It's better access into the Sky Striker stuff. It helps get the board breakers going second. Like, yeah, there's a chance where you can draw 2 of it, but this deck gets so badly hurt by the Mulch Armies and by Droll. Like, this should have been a 3 100%. And then Overdrive. So this is my Thrust target of choice. This card was really nice. This card was, like, phenomenal. I had a 38-minute game 1 versus Sky Striker in my last round, and the only reason I was able to stay in the game that long and play through the multi-roll, like, resetting stuff was because I had both Tunneler and Overdrive to shuffle stuff back and get more card advantage. And then Call By, 3 Droplet. You know, Droplet, this deck is, like, there's not a lot of hand traps in this deck. That's because this deck, surprisingly, is super good at board breaking. Everything you're putting on the board represents a lot of threats. Like, Stage Landing is not once per turn, so you're just constantly farting out the Link monster every turn when you're trying to push through a board. Gaten Driller and the Valkan Rocket popping cards. You can just activate multiple Stage Landings and then push to get stuff out of your main monster zone and then get, like, Engage. It's just, these cards are really good. So yeah, Droplet was a great part of that. Really, really strong. I felt like I broke through a full Memento board on stream one time. Memento literally full comboed me, and I just, like, Dropleted some stuff away, and then just pushed through their entire board with the RB cards. It's pretty nuts. And then Ash to beat Charmies and Fua when I go second. It's arguable that this should have been Droll in main instead of Fua, but ultimately this was still totally fine. So for the extra deck, I played 3 Valken Booster and 3 Brute Blues. I go through these cards like crazy. Like, if you're playing this deck and pushing through boards, you will just go through these cards. So I just maxed out on them. 2 Clockwork Knight because it is nice to have one. There were a lot of times where I would be making a Clockwork Knight to get something off of the board, linking it up into an RB link, and then making another Clockwork Knight later to then be able to use its effect. Like, this at 2 and this at 2 felt good. And it also lets you load up your grave for tunneler draws if you have that combo during your turn 1. The 3 Striker links are necessary because, as I mentioned before, use all 3 of them if you see engage when you're going first to 1-card combo into Valken Booster. And then Nova Infinity, like I talked about, this, like Harvester plus the Gaten Driller, through hand traps, I could just make this and sit on it. It never came up. Literally didn't summon these. I think they just needed to get cut. As cute as I think these cards are, I think they should go. 3 Droll. Again, I don't know if I'm going to switch between Droll and Fua. I probably will do that because the board that this deck sets up is not that powerful. It's usually the Link 3 plus the Trident plus the Spell Trap Negate plus Funk Dock, which floats into the another RB attachments, multiple stage landings engraved to protect your stuff. Hopefully Citadel, if I have that, like if I thrust for Overdrive, that could be a part of there too. But ultimately, that's like, depending on the hand. Ultimately, what I'm getting at is this board is lower powered. Having Fua in my hand as non-engine on top of that board was really rough. And then Lancia, because Malice format. Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster, really good board breakers that I can add with Thrust. Regulus at 3 was interesting. I sided this in going first a lot because you pretty much always see this, and it's just nice to have multiple Omnis. And then Cross Out to beat Droll, D-Barrier for Thrust, and then Rivalry of Warlords just as an extra card I could set. And of course, if it pairs with Clockwork Knight, you functionally win the game. So that's the deck. Now, let's talk about what I would change. I would bump Harvester down to 1 because seeing multiple Harvesters never felt good. You can always add Harvester off of Heavy Forward and you can have Trencher for it later. Like this, it just kind of sucked to see multiples. And then I would switch out Gaten Driller down to 1 and bump this as my 2 of. Or I would actually probably play, I would probably play 2 Driller, 2 Cutter, and I would play Scrap Recycler. So Scrap Recycler, let's talk about this card. Since I want to be playing Citadel, because Citadel gets its effect if these pop themselves by their own effect, so that could trigger Citadel for another layer of interruption, just so you all are aware why I'm talking about that. So Recycler can dump Citadel, but Recycler is never a 1-card combo. We would need to be playing a target for Recycler, which I will demonstrate to you now, is going to be Jet Synchron. So I know this is kind of adding to the 1-of piles, which I know is frustrating. However, Jet Synchron is also a 1-card combo if you open it. And I like Jet Synchron more than O-Lion because Jet Synchron discards cards from your hand. So if you open something like Tunneler or Trencher, or you open something like Citadel, you can pitch those cards for Jet Synchron. I think this is the better card simply because the fact that it pitches a card. There's just a lot of things that you want to dump out of your hand. Also, Monk Unit is correct. You can put spells in grave for engage. So I think this is the thing that makes more sense. So I will be doing that. Also, the reason Gaten Cutter is going to go to 2, Scrap Recycler has this really weird effect that a lot of people don't remember, which is you can send a machine monster from your deck to the graveyard on summon, of course, right? But as an ignition effect, shuffle 2 level 4 Earth machine monsters from your deck, or from your grave into the deck as cost to just draw a card. So if you go through both your cutters, you can just you can just shuffle them back and draw a card. You can just reborn this with Clockwork Knight and just do that. So 100% this should have been in my deck. Huge mistake not playing this. So we're going to cut these. I think this is what the deck should have looked like. Foolish Burial Goods was kind of erroneous. I really didn't need it at all. Maybe a 3rd Thrust should go in here somewhere, but I think this is the better build of the deck, for sure. I could do like this and do this, Maybe that would just be better. You know, the Goten Cutter doesn't really need to be more than a 1-of. You're getting to it anyway, for sure. Like, this is just, I think, the way that this deck should go. Plus, Thrust at 3 really helps you going second. It's very strong. What would you cut the Infinity package for? Like, this is what my extra deck could look like. Also, important to note that Zeke is a machine link with 1500. This is probably what I would play. See if I get a recycler line. Yeah, like, already. So we go like this. Wasn't there a striker link too that's really great in EM? Yeah, Camellia, which isn't in the TCG. I don't know why they insist on not giving it to us. Since we already have Recycler, we don't need to get back Hornadrone, so we can just go like normal this. Let's do Trencher. Let's show some shit off here. Go Clockwork Knight. Clockwork Knight effect. Tribute the Kaina. Summon back Recycler. Recycler effect. Send Harvester. Trencher effect. Get Harvester. Harvester effect. Get this. Link off for Goliath. Effect. Tribute the Goliath. Summon itself. Link off for Goliath. Get this. Get stage. Oh, fuck. I didn't get Funk Doc. I already, like... Whoops! That's okay. I can get it in a second. Do I have an RB engraved? I have an RB in hand. Okay, well, so we'll summon this out of hand. I'll move it. I didn't really need to move it. It doesn't matter. Get Funk Doc here. So we go like Funk Doc. Get Stage Landing. We go Stage Landing, summon Cutter, Stage Landing, summon Driller. We probably could have prioritized this engage to get a Widow Anchor a little bit better, but it doesn't really matter. All of these come back, so we can draw 2. Yeah, now we just have, like, this, right? Obviously, there would be interaction. Maybe the talents would be live. I would have a Widow Anchor here as well. This is like I could have sent Citadel instead of, you know, going for the draw 2 line. There's just a lot of different stuff I could have done. But you see the idea. And now, like, this, like, when these pop themselves with their own effect, it summons another copy. It's cool. Anyway, so that's the idea. So let's talk about potential support moving forward. First and foremost, this deck needs a normal summon. We already have some normal summons. You know, we're shoehorning in Recycler and Harvester. But at the end of the day, what we're looking at here still is engine requirement city, right? I think the Harvester stuff is cool, but it still is playing Trencher. It's still playing Tunneler. I'm still playing Citadel and Jet Synchron, even though those are 1-card combo. Well, the Citadel's not a 1-card combo, but like even though the Jet Synchron is a 1-card combo, they don't push a lot. Engines need to have cards that replace themselves now in order to be good at not only going first, but pushing into a board. So an RB normal summon that gets you an RB card would be hugely important. It would also be beneficial if that RB normal summon had a recycling effect like Scrap Recycler does. You can banish this card from your grave, target some number of RB monsters, shuffle into the deck, and draw a couple, right? It's kind of putting all of what these added, like, additional engines are doing. Just put that into one card and allow, like, one card to do a lot, which is what it should do. This deck is very restrictive. A lot of the engine pieces don't do anything on their own. It would be really beneficial if there was an RB card that did something on normal or special to allow Funk Doc to be a very good extender, right? Clockwork Knight's effect to tribute a machine and summon a different machine, it doesn't tribute the machine as cost, it tributes the machine as effect. So Clockwork Knight's effect triggers Funk Doc's effect to special from deck. So this deck needs to really capitalize on all of that stuff. It's okay for these cards to be crazy. They should, right? Like, they made Mitsurugi. That's a crazy deck, you know? Those cards do things when they're summoned or tributed, you know? This deck could benefit a lot from that style of gameplay. It's okay for a deck to have a starter that's kind of the do-all sort of card. That's what this deck is missing, is that do-all sort of normal summon monster. I would also like to see RB have a quick play spell, some type of interruption. Because while Funk Dock has an effect that is usable on the opponent's turn, it's not an interruption or an interactive card that this card is searching. It searches for an RB spell, which can get you to Stage Landing, which gets you to Valken Rocket, which can interact with the opponent's board, but there's a lot that needs to happen there in order for that to work, right? This just needs to get some type of interactive card. I would like to see a continuous spell. I don't know what that continuous spell would do, but it would be really great for an RB continuous spell to exist, because that would allow the RB attachments to turn into Clockwork Knight, which could get you Clockwork Knight. I think that would be a very interesting piece of support that we haven't seen, because cards or decks that typically played Clockwork Knight before didn't make getting Clockwork Knight a part of its end board consistently, right? Like, Crystron plays Clockwork Knight, but it's just as a link monster to get something like a Smiker off the board, you know what I mean? It would be nice for a deck in the metagame to exist that gets Clockwork Knight. It would be really nice for RB to have their own archetypal trap card as a thrust target. I think this deck works very well as a thrust deck, because these cards, while they seem like they don't do a lot, they are really, really good at pushing into boards. If you're summoning Recycler and sending Citadel, that's very strong into something like a Detonator, you know? Typically, TCG exclusive archetypes get 2 waves of support, each with 7 cards, so it would be nice to have some extra deck guys. And I say that because be realistic about what we're working with here, right? You have given us a very good spell, but this is a super harsh restriction. I don't remember cards in like 2014 that had this type of restriction. Arguably, like, the Monarch cards have this restriction, but like, whoa, I can only summon machines from my extra deck that have 1,500 or less original attack for the entirety of my turn? I haven't seen a retroactive lock on a card in forever, you know? Like, we need some machine link monsters that are attachments that are beneficial to Brute Blues, or like a better end board piece than Brute Blues. Either way, this archetype has a lot going for it, but we really need some stuff that can either be playmakers, even more so than Valken Booster. We got to get some attachments in the extra deck. That's the biggest thing. And I hope that they are Earth Machines. I would really like them to be Earth Machines, so that way they can be shuffled back with something like Tunneler if that's still something that gets played. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case, but, you know, who knows? It depends on what that normal, the normal summon for this deck does, right? If it's a normal summon that, like, I don't know, Tour Guides and RB from deck can banish itself to shuffle back RB cards, like, that would be perfect. I think that would, honestly, that card alone would solve so much. I think this archetype is very cool. I think it shows a lot of promise. I mean, I was beating, like, Vanquish Soul, like a 2-0'd Vanquish Soul with this deck after losing the die roll. Can't remember what round 1 was. Round 1, I won against something. Round 2, I lost against Mermail. Round 3, I 2-0'd Vanquish Soul. And round 4, drew against Sky Striker, but I actually should have won because I won the 38-minute game 1, and my opponent went for Kaina to gain life in time. However, I realized that the Sky Striker spell they activated was Linkage, so they shouldn't have been able to gain that life. So, no shade to them. This was a super, super long match. Very heady, very heads-up gameplay. I'm not upset at my opponent for missing that. We both did. It was still a great match regardless, but theoretically I should have won that one. Either way. I didn't know the rest of his hand either way. Who knows? But this deck is sick. This deck is really cool. I don't know how they fuck it up with 7 cards. I've said that before. You know, I know. I've said that before. So, I don't know. This deck's great. I'm excited to see what I can do moving forward. Yeah, I don't know. I just can't see how they screw it up.